Okay, great. So we have an interesting topic where we're going to talk about diabetes and diet management, right? So to introduce the topic, so as to what exactly is diabetes, though we all know it. Okay, it's a condition that occurs when the blood glucose or our blood sugar is too high. So can you all tell me what is our body's main source of energy?
Sugar,
Yes, but which sugar?
glucose.
Glucose, very good. Okay. And insulin is a hormone that is made by the pancreas that helps this glucose get into our body cells to be used for energy. Okay. For example, if it's a sandwich that I'm going to eat right now, okay, if I eat this sandwich and I'm going to just sit there for the next 2-3 hours, obviously, the glucose that has come into my blood from this sandwich is not going to be utilized by the body cells, right? Whereas if I eat that sandwich and I walk or I'm active, automatically that glucose will be utilized by the body cells. Okay, so when this glucose keeps accumulating over time, that is what we call as high blood sugars or diabetes. Okay, so diabetes is a condition. It's not a disease but a condition. So glycemic index is a very important term that comes into play when we are talking of diabetes. What is this glycemic index? Okay, basically we call it GI, glycemic index. It's a number, okay, that is associated with how much a particular food increases our blood sugar level. Okay, so if you go and check out, you have 3 levels of glycemic index. So 0 to 55 is a low glycemic food. Okay, 56 to 69 is a moderate glycemic food, and 70 or more is high glycemic. I don't want to confuse you all. You might think, what are these figures? Okay, so basically to make it simple for you all, if you go online and get the foods and numbers, and those numbers don't make any sense to us, right? But to keep it simple, okay, we have the low glycemic index foods, as we said, which are very safe for those who are diabetic. The moderate glycemic index foods, which obviously they need to eat in moderation, and the high GI foods, which preferably need to be minimized or avoided as much as possible. Okay, so coming to the low glycemic index foods, whether we're looking in terms of, they say fruits. I like this topic that Sheldon put about mangoes, right? So though mangoes may be moderate to high glycemic, okay, any fruit had in moderation is perfectly fine, because all fruits have their own benefits. No, for example, mangoes are available only during the summer, so you can't restrict someone and say don't eat mango, no, because they have their own benefits. But it is how much of it we eat that is important. Whereas coming to the low GI foods, we have apple, pear, orange, sweet lime, cherries, okay, strawberries, peaches, plums. All of these are low glycemic, meaning when you consume them, the rate at which your sugar rises is much slower as compared to eating chiku, banana, grapes, custard apple, mango. Okay, so that's how we distinguish them. All dried fruits are very high in sugar. So they say fruits are perfectly fine, it's the natural sugars. Dried fruits tend to have a much higher glycemic index. So if you are diabetic, all nuts like almonds, walnuts, pistas, cashew nuts are all excellent, but please control on your consumption of dried fruits, that is dates, raisins, figs, all of those. Okay, the vegetables, so all your vegetables or the vegetables that we eat on a day-to-day basis are very low glycemic. Okay, whether it's onions, cabbage, tomato, lettuce. I can share this chart in case you all need, not a problem. Okay, cauliflower, mushroom. So the most common vegetables we use. Now they only say beetroot, carrot, sweet corn, green peas, sweet potato are moderate glycemic. So be a bit cautious. In fact, funnily, sweet potato is much lower in sugar than potato, because sweet potato has a glycemic index of 66 and potato has a glycemic index of 80. So the only two vegetables we request people usually to avoid if they're diabetic are potato and beetroot. Okay, but the other veggies are fine. So whether it is, vermicelli, spaghetti, all these, in fact, they say noodles are not very high glycemic, but it is all the sauces that we add into them that increase the glycemic index. Okay. So whether it's oats, muesli, brown rice, rava, all of these are moderate. The only ones are white rice, white bread, cornflakes. But there's one important point here. We usually will not eat bread plain, right? So always remember, with any carbohydrate, if you pair a protein, it reduces the glycemic load of that meal. To give you an example, if I just have bread and butter, okay, and I check my blood sugar 2 hours later, it may show as 180. But if I have bread with, like, say, some chicken in it or egg in it, believe it or not, your sugar level will drop because the protein, and if you add some salad or some veggies to it, even better. Okay, because the protein and the fiber works towards reducing the glycemic load of that meal. Now, when we say white rice, okay, many people tell me brown rice is not something that's so practical for us to eat on a regular basis, or, the other members don't eat it. And then it's not, we should do something that we all can follow, right? So if you have a small portion of rice with your curry and say fish and vegetable salad, increase the quantity of your veggie salad, add some protein, like whether it's fish or pulses, your glycemic load will reduce, and your sugar 2 hours later will be much better as compared to just eating rice, curry, vegetable. Okay, so this is between the glycemic index. Now, what are the benefits? Obviously, it helps with lower blood glucose levels, helps with reducing the cholesterol levels. Obviously, our weight also comes into check. Okay, reduces any heart disease, stroke, and your type 2 diabetes mellitus risk. Okay, so what diet do we consume? Choose high fiber, slow release carbohydrates. What is the meaning of this? Now, we have two groups of carbohydrates, simple and complex. Which do you all think are the good ones, simple or complex?
Complex.
Complex, very good. Why complex carbohydrates?
Because it releases slow sugar, carbohydrate.
Very good. Yes, because they have more fiber in them, and the sugars released at a very slow rate. Okay, can you give me some examples of complex carbohydrates?
Brown rice.
Yes, then?
Brown rice, most vegetables.
Excellent, then?
The rice and keep. And
Lentil.
Yes. Correct. Okay, everyone's been talking ever since the International Year of Millets in 2023. Everyone's talking about millets, So jowar, bajra, ragi, all of these contain complex carbohydrates. Okay, so the fiber is good. The sugar rises at a much slower rate. Okay, in fact, even now with wheat, a lot of people are including. Yeah. Sorry. So some people are adding khapli wheat. I don't know if you all have heard, which again is fiber and a lower glycemic index. Okay. So with fiber, with carbohydrates, we choose complex carbohydrates. Can you all give me some good quality protein sources?
Sorry. Can you say again?
Cannot hear. Please say, please, everyone, please mute. Cannot hear.
Okay, so when it comes to protein, we have veg protein and non-veg protein options, right? So non-veg, whether it's fish, chicken, egg, meats, are all excellent quality proteins. For those who prefer vegetarian options, then you have options like paneer, soya, tofu, green moong, black chana, rajma. All of these also are protein sources, okay? And concentrate on healthy unsaturated fats. So we basically have two groups of fats, saturated and unsaturated. So the unsaturated ones, okay, whether it's the cooking oils we use, whether it's the nuts like almonds, walnuts, okay, whether it's flax seeds, all of these contain good unsaturated fats. And the only two saturated fats we request people to completely avoid will be dalda and margarine. Okay, so be a bit cautious of those two, whereas a little bit of butter and ghee is perfectly fine. So we discussed about this. Consume whole grain cereals and pulses. So whether it is chapatis, unpolished rice, oats, millets, dalia, okay, lentils, pulses, all of these are excellent sources of carbohydrates, and carbohydrates provide us with energy. Okay, eat more low glycemic fruits and vegetables. We've spoken about the low glycemic options. Concentrate on good quality protein sources. Okay, so fish, chicken, egg, milk, paneer, soya, tofu. Reduce your saturated fat intake. Okay, watch whether the product you are consuming has margarine or dalda, vanaspati. A lot of times during festivals we make sweets and a lot of people still use dalda. Okay, so replace that with pure ghee instead. Cutting down on sugary foods. Okay, I know we all love pastries and cakes and biscuits. Who doesn't like them? So it doesn't mean that you have to entirely put it out of your lifestyle. Not at all needed. Okay, if you're going out with family or friends or meeting someone, it's absolutely fine, but not something that you need to consume on a daily basis. So cut down, because the sweets, pastries, aerated drinks are empty calories. So use it for an occasion, not really for something that, a lot of times we look at comfort eating, no? Oh, I'm stressed, I'm worried, I'm upset, and then we look for these comfort foods to make us feel good, no? So that is what we need to go down on. Reduce your excess salt intake. Now you might think, why am I talking about salt and diabetes? Okay, but your blood pressure, your blood sugars, all of these work together hand in hand. So sugar, they say avoid too many tinned foods, processed foods, because there are three extras added to them. That is sugar, salt, and fat. Okay, because these three ingredients will help with increasing the shelf life of the product. So minimize, eat more natural foods, minimize too much of processed food. So what are some of the meals that you can include? Okay, I'm sure many of you think eat this and eat that. So what do we actually eat? No? So coming to breakfast options, okay, each one of you would have different choices, but for those who eat oats, it's one choice. Okay, rotis with egg, poha, upma, or rotis with some sabzi, any one option. If you look at this, each has a carbon protein. Like if you see roti and egg, rotis will give us carbohydrates, egg will give us protein, the little oil you use is fats. So it is a balanced meal. Okay. Mid morning, if you're hungry, something like a fruit, some nuts and seeds, or roasted gram, anything like that you can munch on, but avoid overeating or staying too hungry where you tend to overeat. Okay. Then your lunch option. So either you have rice curry, fish, vegetables, rice curry, curd, vegetable, chapatis with chicken or pulses, any one option, but see that you reduce the quantity of your rice or rotis and increase the quantity of your veggies and salad, and balance it with the protein. For sure, your blood sugar level will stay in check. Okay, evening tea time, something like kurmura, makhana, chana, groundnuts, sweet potato, moong, chaat. There are so many healthy options that taste good instead of biscuits. Okay, because usually we tend to get to tea and biscuits, no? So minimize biscuit intake and keep some light snack that you could munch on at tea time. And try to aim for an early dinner, not later than 8 p.m. Okay, where you stick to, if your blood sugar levels are high, then that's the only time you minimize your cereal carbohydrate. That is, keep a protein like a fish or chicken or egg or pulses with some vegetable salad. If your sugar is in check, you can definitely add chapati, or you can include a khichdi or something. Okay, so it depends on what your food choices are. Weight management is very important when we are looking and talking about diabetes. Okay, and we come to the BMI. I'm going to give each of you maybe a minute to calculate your own BMIs. Okay, what is BMI? BMI is nothing but your body mass index that tells us in which category of our weight we actually, health we come under. Okay, so whether you're looking in terms of your weight in kgs divided by height in meters square is the formula to calculate the BMI. If your BMI is less than 18.5, you are in the underweight category. Anywhere from 18.5 to 24.9 is in the normal category, and beyond 25 is in the overweight category. Okay, so weight in kgs divided by height in meters square. If you are 160 centimeters in height, then 1.6 into 1.6 converts to meters square. Okay, so you can all calculate your own BMIs to know in which category you fall under. Because if you are in a normal category of your BMI, it's much better. You know for sure your sugars, pressure, all of this can be in check. Okay. So along with, your food, being more active is very important. You don't have to do any form of strenuous exercises or activities. Even if for those who can go for a little walk, or if you, whatever form of activity you like, a little dance, you like whatever activities, okay, you've had some lovely stretches shown to all of you. So, keep yourselves fit and active as much as you can, because, I usually tell people, instead of constantly cutting down food, if we can burn off a little more, it's always helpful. How do we avoid complications? A very important point is controlling your weight, eating a well-balanced, healthy diet, okay, which we already spoke about, the carbohydrates, proteins, fats, some form of physical activity daily, have your regular checkups. If you are diabetic, please see that you are monitoring your blood sugars regularly. Check your feet for cuts and blisters, okay, because healing for diabetic patients is always longer, and you don't want any sort of infections to crop up. So check your feet for cuts and blisters. Control on alcohol and do not smoke. Okay. Reading the food labels. This slide is very, very important, because a lot of times, there's so much of marketing on products happening today that we pick a particular product, we don't see whether, it looks like, 100% ragi, and 0% maida. Sounds so interesting, but when you go into the ingredients, you will see 29% of sugar and palm oil. Okay, so be cautious. Like, I was doing a session with a company, and I said, let's take a challenge of finding one biscuit packet without unnatural sugar. Okay, so in fact, sugar is not the bad villain as much as we make it sound. It is the unnatural artificial sugars which weren't added so much earlier and are added now. Okay, giving you all the example of these artificial sugars, you have liquid glucose. Okay, liquid glucose, maltodextrin. Okay, liquid glucose, maltodextrin, high fructose corn syrup, invert sugar, dextrose, maltose, all of these are added sugars. Okay, and believe it or not, I think it was just that cream cracker packet that had, maida and sugar. All the other biscuits, whether it was oat biscuits and, whatever seeds and nuts and everything that sounded interesting, all of them had unnatural sugars in them. Okay, so be cautious and aware of this, because a lot of protein bars and so many products are coming in the market, but a lot of them are full of these unnatural sugars. So be cautious, read the food label of what you are purchasing, so that you know whether it's really good or whether it's just being made to look like it's good. Okay, and this is the last but most interesting slide of the session, and that's let's prepare a schedule. Okay, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking where to start, where to end. A lot of you may be already following a good, healthy routine, but for those who are stuck somewhere, okay, let's first focus on the challenges that all of us face. Like, there could be somebody who is not sleeping well. There could be somebody who's barely drinking 1 or 2 glasses of water a day. Okay, we ideally need to have at least 12 hours of gap between our dinner and breakfast, which means if my breakfast is happening at 8, it's ideal to see that my dinner also gets done by 8, because if I give those 12 hours to the liver is detoxifying, cleansing, processing, and your blood sugars are also, the liver plays a major role with your blood sugars, because that's the main detoxification organ. Okay, otherwise what we tend to do is we eat very late, and then there's hardly any time for the body to actually heal. And the fourth goal, your fourth challenge is exercise. Okay, so there was a particular client who was struggling, with this whole routine of how to get, healthy. Okay, so when we say we have 4 major lifestyle goals to reverse any clinical condition, okay, one is at least 7 hours of sleep at night, 2 liters of water daily, unless you are advised because of a clinical issue to have less, at least 12 hours of gap between dinner and breakfast, and fourth is exercise. Okay, so if you think it's a bit overwhelming to do all of this together, then I'd say take one challenge each week. Okay, for example, if it's sleep, for the first week, okay, I will sleep for 7 hours at night. I'll keep my phone away 30 minutes before bedtime. Happens to all of us, right? Everyone has Facebook and WhatsApp and it's tempting to keep watching those videos and following news, and it's so much of stress, okay, with all that's happening around us. So I will avoid unnecessary stress just before going to bed. Otherwise, you're trying to sleep, but the brain is active, okay? And I'll avoid drinking too much of coffee after 5 p.m. because of the caffeine, okay? So if week 1 you focus on sleep, week 2 you can focus on your water intake. So I will keep 2 liters of water. I'll keep it either at my desk, table, kitchen, wherever, but I know that I have to hydrate, okay? Week 3, focus towards having your early dinner. And the 4th week, concentrate on exercise. And the best part for that is set a time. If you want to go for a walk, okay? Maybe it's in the morning, or 30 minutes in the morning, or 30 minutes in the evening. If you're unable to get out of your home, at least some form of exercise that you can do at home itself, but set a time so that it happens. Because if we can follow these 4 lifestyle goals, for sure, we can have our blood sugars, our blood pressure, and all clinical parameters in check. And I think we're going to have some very happy, healthy seniors. Thank you very much, and wish you all the very best. So a little conclusion before I wind up is be realistic about your target weight. Okay, we don't want anything too fast and too quick. So if you are overweight, aim to lose this weight gradually. Please get your blood sugar checked regularly. Okay, a lot of people for months together, they don't check their sugar. Make small changes that you can stick to and be positive. Don't give up. Thank you. Now open to your questions.
Thank you, Neena, for that. Anybody can just unmute and ask any questions if they would like Neena to clarify their doubts.
Neena, I have 3 questions. May I ask?
Sure.
Yeah. The first is, how many jackfruit pods can a diabetic have?
Okay, it depends on the blood sugar level. What is the blood sugar level that you are talking of?
Maybe not normal, a little higher than normal. Let's say when 120 or something, 130.
Okay, so usually what they say is a small bowl, okay, of any like a katori is what they usually say is a serving. But if you're having a jackfruit, have it on its own, okay, not just after the
Have
meal.
it what?
Sorry, yeah, we have this habit of having it a food just after your meal, right? So if you have it around 10:30, 11, you just have a small handful of jackfruit pods, getting off the seed out, no problem. In fact, jackfruit seeds are excellent as well, and they have so many nutrients. And if you just pressure cook them with some salt and water, it tastes really good.
Yeah, so that means about 7, 8 jackfruit pods, or is that too much?
No, around 6, 7 is absolutely not a problem as a whole serving. Yes.
Okay. Second, you referred to broad beans. Could you name some broad beans?
Yes. So this is an interesting point actually when it comes to broad beans. There is this debate still going on. So in the local one, they call it, have you heard of these beans called aure in Konkani?
No.
Yes. Okay. So they are the big fat, the flat ones. So they usually say, as compared to all the other beans, there was this whole modern nutrition going on. Like, earlier it was eggs had no issues with the blood cholesterol. No, earlier it was blood cholesterol was caused by the cholesterol in eggs, but now they say clinically the blood cholesterol has no issues with the egg cholesterol. So similarly, they're saying now that this broad beans, not always, but as per what the traditional nutrition says, that broad beans or these flat beans have a much higher glycemic index as compared to all the other, those osandes or the matanas, the chole, rajma, all of those have a higher, fiber and lower glycemic as compared to, all those are very low glycemic as compared to the broad beans. So I don't think it's
now the broad bean. I have seen a broad bean. It's sword bean, or koituval. Is that the same thing? Koituval.
Yes, you get these as either flat, biggish white ones. You also have greenish ones.
Yes.
Yes.
So that is the broad bean.
Sorry?
Is that the broad bean? Is that the broad bean you're talking about? It's a broad bean. It's a flat bean.
That's the broad bean I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but it's not.
Thank you.
It's not something that we eat so often, right? So, but the thing is, if you're having it in a small quantity, it's absolutely fine. The only thing they talk about is a lot of times, people are making, like you make hummus and things like that. You're using a bigger quantity and then you're using a lot of more items. I mean, a bigger portion of it, no? So if you are including it in veggies and as part, like I said, is see anything that you eat with protein and with fiber, it reduces the glycemic load of the meal. So even with broad beans, if you're including fiber-rich vegetables and some sort of protein, it definitely will reduce the glycemic. But all your
Neena?
other pulses are low glycemic.
Yeah, would you
Neena?
name some of those, the third question, would you name some
Yes.
of those unnatural sugars? The slide went with, we didn't get that.
Definitely. Okay, so I will name them high fructose corn syrup. High
Thank you, yes.
liquid glucose,
Yes,
maltodextrin,
yes,
invert sugar,
yes.
dextrose, then you
Okay.
have maltose, but these are the most common. So the
Tell it
most
that way.
common, if you'll see in biscuits and all, no, if anyone has a packet of biscuits near them, okay, you can just check and see. They will either have invert sugar or liquid glucose. Anybody has any biscuit packet around that they can check or share any, food list or ingredient list of any product? So just remember one thing, the product that you have with you, okay, in the ingredient list, the first 3 ingredients are the ones that are highest in that particular product. To give you an example, if you have a product with, say, sugar, maida, and whatever, salt, example, okay, so sugar, maida, and salt are present in highest quantity. So if you have any product with you or close to you, just check and we can kind of share. Anyone wants to share?
I have a packet of Marie biscuits, Vita Marie Gold. And
Go ahead and read the
it
ingredients.
doesn't say what the sugars are. They just say added sugars 9 grams.
Yeah, no, ingredients, you will see the fine ingredient list has to be there.
I'm
What
looking
is
at
it?
the fine list. This is the finest from this pack, yes. In that little label that they have.
Yes.
Doesn't name. It names all the vitamins.
No. So don't, so the label is one thing, okay? Your label
Yeah.
is you're watching the
Ingredients.
nutrition, absolutely perfect, but I'm looking at the ingredient list. Can you see there'll be a list
Yes,
of
I
what
can mention.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Can you tell me?
It's wheat flour, then refined palm oil, sugar, wheat bran, maltodextrin,
Yes. See, maltodextrin.
products, then whey, invert sugar,
So see, it has
invert
double
sugar
artificial-
syrup, raising agents, and small iodized salt
Okay, that's it.
emulsifiers.
Yes.
Is that okay?
So how many artificial sugars did you find in this one packet?
The invert sugar syrup.
Hello.
then
हो गया
Liquid glucose,
liquid
sugar
glucose.
syrup, I think something was, yeah.
Yeah, invert sugar syrup. Yeah, that's
And
it.
maltodextrin.
Yeah.
Correct? So there were 3 artificial sugars. So a lot of times, so when we check this thing, we'll say, oh, it has bran and it has wheat, no? But then the thing is, be cautious. So if you have a couple of Marie biscuits, now there's no problem at all, okay? So it's not that I'm against any particular product. So, sometimes biscuits we all want to enjoy with tea and it's absolutely fine. But sometimes people think, oh, I'm having oat biscuits, I'm having a digestive bran biscuits, okay? So you think you're having it for one purpose, but then it's defeating the actual purpose. Okay. So if you have other alternatives at tea time, like we mentioned, then great. So if you are eating these biscuits, a couple of them will do you no harm. But sometimes those 2 go to another 2 and another 2, and that is the problem.
Neena?
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Tell me.
Okay. When we do a light stir fry, okay, for example, chicken or whatever light one for dinner,
Yes.
And we add things like sauce, soy sauce. These are they bad in moderation? Can we still carry on with this?
Definitely not a problem as long as it's in moderation. So your
Yeah,
stir
in
fried
moderation.
yeah, your stir fried chicken is perfect, no doubt. So if you're going to add a little spoon of sauce into it to give it some flavor, not an issue at all. It's
Okay.
only that when we tend to eat out, they are like pouring cups of sauces in it,
No,
right?
outside, not outside, at home. When you make it at home.
Yes. So how much of sauce are you looking at? Maybe a teaspoon or two?
Yeah, exactly. A teaspoon, because I and my husband are here. So the quantity is very small, which I cook for sometimes for dinner, so that it can avoid little bit of carbs and things. So in that I put some
Perfectly fine.
vegetables also. And naturally for flavoring, we need a little bit of tomato ketchup and the soy sauce and maybe some chili sauce just for the
Okay.
flavor. Okay, so
Okay.
very limited.
If you're using just a little, absolutely no problem because somehow your protein and your veggies along will balance out that
Yes,
sugar
yes.
rush.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so
Okay.
that's not a problem at all. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Nina,
Yes.
I wanted to ask you if we have pulses and cereals,
Yes.
it is gassy. How to avoid this gas?
Okay. So they say for pulses, very, very important is soaking minimum whole pulses, minimum 8 hours. So soaking and cooking tends to increase the digestibility. A lot of times we don't soak it enough. We just take the pulses, wash it, just put it in hot water and soak or something and then cook it, no? So soaking, overnight soaking and then pressure cooking increases the digestibility of pulses.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
I want to just ask something. You recommend to have dinner like 4 hours before your bedtime or what? What about when we afternoon nap? We have our lunch and start
Yes.
dozing or napping after that. So what is the take on that?
Good question. So the thing is, when it comes to post meals, you can't say wait 2 hours and take a nap. No, doesn't make sense. So what I would suggest is you besides your walk, that you're walking, after your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just take a 10-minute walk in your house itself, if you can. So that at least you're helping. The other walk that you're doing is you're trying to let the liver use fat for energy. No, we're not consuming, because if you eat and you start exercising, your body is burning what you've just consumed, right? So instead of just eating and taking a nap where your food is not even digested, give yourself just 10 minutes of a little bit of walking up and down in your home itself. Okay, you can just relax for another 10, maybe 5-10 minutes and then take your nap. Not a problem at all. Only thing is don't just eat and go to sleep.
Thank you.
Hello, Nina.
Yes.
May I ask you something?
Sure.
Now I have got uric acid. Now pulses are not good for me, right?
Yes. So in terms
So
of
what do I
pulses,
do?
yeah, so the two pulses to completely avoid for somebody with uric acid episodes, with gout episodes because of uric acid rather, would be Rajma and Kabuli Chana. Okay? Rajma and Kabuli Chana. But the other pulses, like, when you're looking in terms of these Osandes, and if they have in small amounts, usually patients don't tend to have so much of trouble, or split dals also, they don't tend to have. But it's mostly.
Dal is okay? Dal is okay?
Yes, if you're making a thin dal, don't make a very thick dal. If it's a thin dal, it's fine. But
Okay.
we've seen patients complain of episodes of pain or joint aches with uric acid. These are the main foods I'll just highlight. So you have Rajma, Kabuli Chana, you have red meats, okay, organ meats, which is heart, liver. So your so otherwise chicken, egg is fine. But in fish you have shellfish, so prawns, crabs, sardines,
No,
mackerel.
I avoid all that. I avoid shellfish.
Okay,
Completely.
and cauliflower, mushroom, spinach, and brinjal in vegetables.
Oh, that also not.
Mushroom, spinach, and brinjal, which are otherwise excellent vegetables, only for somebody prone to uric acid. So among the pulses, any form of chana and rajma, if you can minimize. The other pulses, people don't usually have that much. The purine content is less.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Nina,
Yes.
Nina, if
Yes.
I can't now because of the weather, if I can't go for a walk outdoors, and if my house is small and I can't walk, can a stationary cycle be okay for a while?
Yes, of course, absolutely not an issue. Even if a stationary cycle, if you can exercise and keep yourself like the 15 minutes, 20 minutes every day would be excellent.
Okay, thank you, Nina.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nina, for
Most welcome.
for joining us today.
Thank you,
Um,
Nina.
yeah, it was really informative, and I'm sure so many doubts were cleared. Yeah, it was amazing. Really, thank you so much for being with us.